going on, everybody? We are back with another episode of Podstrosities. Today, I'm actually going to be solo, at least I think I am. If anyone wants to join in on the conversation, let me know. I'll hop into the VC. Otherwise, you can just sit back and listen to these sultry tones as I talk your ear off about freaking merchandise. Now, I got on this topic because for one thing, no one really had any ideas on what they wanted to talk about. So I was like, you know what? I'll talk about the one thing that I kind of know some shit about, which would be merchandise. Just plain old background. Basically, I am in advertising myself. I'm a graphic designer. I make all different sorts of things, whether it be ads, merch, other swag stuff, video, whatever it is. So, this is kind of like my shtick. It's the thing that I am super passionate about. So that's why I was like, hey, you know what? I could talk someone's ear off about this for about an hour. I could see myself doing that. So yeah, here we are. Here we freaking are. Let me make sure that I actually got all my Twitter stuff put away here because as with everything else with advertising, you got to make sure you're tweeting about it, you're talking about it, you know what I'm saying? All right, here we go. So, freaking merchandise. I don't know if anyone else has merch. It's kind of one of those things that people think about that would be really cool, but are kind of like, I don't know how to do it. I don't know where to go to do it. I don't know what I'm doing. And I think it's a pain point, especially for other streamers, where it's just like it sounds like something that you would do if you were really popular. And don't get me wrong, it definitely is something that you would see someone like Ninja and Pokimane and all of them have stuff for. Their sites are going to be like crazy. They're going to have pre-custom built sites with all of their merch on it and stuff. You don't have to get that fancy. I'm telling you right now, you don't. Joker, I see you in chat. Yeah, and I mean, it really isn't something that you have to be famous to have. If anything, it might actually get you more famous. And we'll kind of go through that a little bit. I'm not going to make any promises, though. All I'm saying is, it is all about marketing. And if that marketing comes in the form of a t-shirt, well then, there you go. It's something that you are basically a walking advertisement for, and that is never a bad thing. But first off, the biggest thing that you got to get past is the fact that, hey, I don't actually have any kind of designs to put on a t-shirt. Like, what the heck am I going to do? So, that part of it is either going to have to come from you or come from someone that you have paid or otherwise given something to in order to get the design back from. I could be a friend, somebody who just wants to design something for you. Joker over here makes some cool shit. So if you're wanting to wanting to make some kind of design with that, there you go. You got resources everywhere, whether that be in your Discord server, might even be on Twitter. There are plenty of people advertising their services. You can go to somewhere like a Fiverr, where you basically just pay whatever the artist specifies. It's usually like, you know, as the site implies, $5 to get something. All kinds of stuff like that. DeviantArt, there's all sorts of places you can go to actually get some sort of design made. And typically, if you're gonna go in with a designer, make sure you find somebody who actually knows how to design for t-shirts. And I think that's something that people don't really think about. They're just like, oh, I just need a designer, period. I'll take my Twitch emote and just slap it on a t-shirt. No, 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 no. Pay me for example. Yes, exactly. Yeah, and that is the hard part. The hard part is finding somebody who actually knows what they're doing for merchandise specifically, because it's not just taking your emote and slapping it on a t-shirt. Let me make sure that I don't have... Oh. Hold on 1 second. Let me get in the chat because I have a dubbing on the line. Let me put up my... Oh! Okay, we're not gonna have that. We're not gonna have that. Because I have a bunch of stuff on my screen. Hello.
Hey, sorry, I didn't realize where you was.
Oh yeah, no problem. I was just kind of going over my introductory spiel of, we're basically talking about merchandise. Being the graphic designery person that I am, I figured that would be a good thing to talk about, at least by myself, if I had to. But did you have any kind of insight or questions about merch before I kind of launch into my methods of doing it?
No, no, I'm just listening in, and I thought I'd join in on this week's podcast. So
Sure.
I'll
Sure thing.
listen to you spiel.
All right, listen to my spiel. That's always appreciated. Okay, so basically, I was just saying how merch is great. It is for everyone. It is not something that you have to be super duper fancy or important to have. Everybody can have it as long as you have the resource to actually make it. There are ways to make designs specifically for merchandise, and that I can sort of kind of tap into, but again, that's going to be a lot of like graphic designery bullshit that you may not need to know. Mainly, you just got to find a resource where you can actually get this design made, and that way you can use it however you wish. You got to make sure that it's actually specified for merchandising and being able to apply it to those products, and not just something like a Twitch emote. Because as you've probably noticed, Twitch emotes, they're very tiny, they're very small. They come in three sizes, but they are not very big. What you're going to want for your merchandise is something huge. And usually, I design my designs for about 10 inches or so. I think that's a pretty typical size for any sort of t-shirt. And I've sort of measured that out. It's not an exact science, but it's just a baseline for, you know, what is it that I need? I need a 10-inch thing. Bada bing bada boom. You ask any designer and they can at least give you a 10 inch by 10 inch square with whatever it is that is inside. So that's basically the first part, making sure that you can find somewhere to get your design done and get it designed right. I also recommend, if the designer knows what they're doing, they should be giving you a 300 pixel per inch image. And that basically just means it's like a resolution thing. It's kind of like when you have a picture that you take with your camera or whatever. The lower the pixel density, the worse it's going to look. It's not going to look near as sharp. That's why on like phones and everything else, it's always super important for people to say like, oh, it's got this pixel density, blah blah blah. That just makes it look fancy. It makes it look sharp. It makes it look nice. Getting a design that is 300 as opposed to the typical 72, that is the pixel density for monitors and other digital media. But if you're wanting something that's actually going to come out in print, you're going to want to aim for something that's more like 300 ppi, because that way you'll have the sharpness that you need when you print it, because print can actually put in like so many dots at once, you know, and put all the ink in and stuff like that, and you want it to be as sharp as possible. If it comes out pixelated, that potentially could get transferred over to the t-shirt. You don't want that. That's going to look like hot garbage. So that's just my 2 cents there on like size and pixel density. Again, if you find an artist that knows what they're doing, typically they will know to do that. If not, that's just something you can ask for. And again, it should not be hard for them to export an image that is like that. The other thing that I want to bring up is the fact that there are many different ways that you can export your artwork and have it be usable essentially for merchandise. And every site, every merch place you go to is going to have different recommendations for what you can actually put in order to put it on the t-shirt or whatever. Spreadshirt, the place that I use, for example, they let you put in SVG, AI, PNG. I think they'll even take a freaking GIF. I mean, they'll take a lot. But I typically would recommend something more like a PNG, which is basically a higher quality image, a slightly pixelized, but not near as bad as like a JPEG or a GIF. And it has transparency, so that way you're not getting like some kind of weird white box around stuff like you'll see on JPG sometimes. But you'll get that transparency, and the colors are typically better than those other file types because it's not as compressed. The best way, though, that I have found to put in your graphics onto like a t-shirt or whatever is basically a vector file, whether that be an SVG, a .ai. Sometimes they will take like a PDF. Those typically turn out better, but they have their own specific challenges with that. So I'll kind of switch over my screen here to what I typically see from Spreadshirt. This is my page here. You can kind of see my designs and stuff. Again, this is not an advertisement for me, by the way. This is just the easiest way for me to show you how I do my shit. So if I go here, for instance, here are all my designs or whatever. I put in a whole bunch of stuff and get a bunch of stuff out. You can notice that some of these are a lot more simple than others. And that is probably because some of them are vectors and some of them are PNGs. And I'll show you the difference here. And by the way, chat, I see yous, and I'll get back to yous. I'm on the spiel mode, but I see yous. So essentially, like this one, for example, it's just a real clean cut rebel text. Now, since it is one color, I would say go for the vector image. I did an AI file because I actually make all of my art in Illustrator already. I think they also take PSD if that's something that you work with, as long as it is something that is vectorized. That way, Spreadshirt themselves actually take that vector image data, which is essentially just, a string of lines that are created with math instead of like like a compressed image of all your colors and stuff. And they can actually color those things based off of the vector image. So if I went to my product selection, for instance, and I just went in here real quick, we'll look at this standard t-shirt. You'll see that's white. I set it as white by default. But what you can actually do is change in here the different kinds of colors that you're using for that image. If I go to another one, let's see, let's go in here. You can see the design colors are in white, product colors, whatever. But that way, you can actually determine the product color with your merch store as opposed to something, let's say, like this one, where there's a lot of gradienting colors in it. You see some yellows, some dark yellows. You see kind of like a highlight of white. Something like this is actually going to be a PNG just because with the vector file, it's not going to get the gradient. It's just going to get that flat color. And the flat color is perfect for something that is simple. Even this Blame Moat one that I did recently, 2 colors, no big deal, because they can actually apply whatever color that you want onto it. You can see here, design colors are listed out here, and if you wanted to, you could change them. And again, this might just be a Spreadshirt thing. I have not really had any experience with any other stores, but this is kind of the way that I've just learned how to do it. But this is kind of cool because then you can change exactly what is there because they're basically just taking that math that's telling you what the shape looks like and applying a different color to it programmatically. And that's super cool. You cannot do this with a PNG. If I went to one of my PNG images like this one, and I went to my products or whatever, you click on it, yeah, there's nothing. There is no colors that you can change because this is not a vector image, it's just a PNG. Still looks good. Don't get me wrong, PNGs versus vector, they still are gonna look great. But there's gonna be a difference in color, and I probably should have brought in my example because I totally forgot. But I have a shirt that basically has a PNG here, and then a AI file, a vector file on the sleeve. And you can actually see how the PNG, it took all of the color that I specifically set in my program and applied it to the PNG. It looked just the same. It might have looked a slight tad bit lighter just because of the way that they have to screen print it, as opposed to the SVG or the vector file, the AI file. It actually was the straight up yellow color, and I could have changed that to any color. It didn't even have to be yellow, but it was actually like sharper in the way that it was applied. It was a deeper color because it was just straight ink. It wasn't like the way that they have to actually screen print these things onto them, almost like a printer. It's like it's printing on top of the t-shirt as opposed to just like slapping down this like pattern of ink. And I again, like I'm not going to get into the weeds of like how those are exactly made, but I will just say in sum that AI files, any other kind of vector file, again, you can kind of look up and see what they are going to come off a lot cleaner and a lot deeper color, but you're going to be limited. Let's see, if I go to, let's say upload more design. Let's just like upload something real quick. Let's do the Blame Mode t-shirt. Whatever. They're going to process it. They're going to figure out, what the heck is this thing? I gave them the vector file. And essentially they're just going to go through and be like, okay, what is actually here? We got to process and see like where all the little lines are and stuff like that. And then we wait. They do take a little bit longer because PNG, since it is its own image, there's nothing to change. There's nothing for them to analyze with like where the lines are because they just have the image. It's just like slap a do, no big deal. Something like a vector file is gonna have to be processed to find all those little baby lines. I don't know if I have to refresh or not. Oh, we'll see. All right, so then it's gonna say action required, and basically it's just going to tell you like, okay, so these are the colors that we have that most closely are close to what your colors that you had, and that's basically just saying like these are the inks that we have as opposed to yours. Again, it's a difference between them like screen printing it on there with the colors that they have as opposed to just slapping through like a printer. And you can see what changes they have made. Like those were too tiny of lines, so they might have filled those in a little bit. You can see here what it would look like if you put it on like a dark background as opposed to a light one. That's just like the t-shirt or whatever. And you choose vector if you want to be able to make it look like this, if you want to be able to change the colors and stuff, or you can choose the bitmap. You can keep your colors, but it's going to come out just like a PNG would. And it might not be as sharp, and you won't be able to change the color, and blah blah blah. So essentially, that is how that you upload it, and that's how it kind of sees it. And I'll go ahead and delete it since I already made this shirt. Beep boop. Maybe if it wants to. There it goes. So yeah, hopefully that kind of gives a little bit of insight into like the differences between them. And again, I have a lot of examples here of which ones are PNGs and which ones are not. They're also going to have, or at least they used to, a maximum of colors that you can actually pick for your AI files. If I put in something that was more than like 3 colors, it may tell me, oh, we can only do 3 colors. You're gonna have to pick some things as a similar color as other things. Let's say like I had 4 colors and one of them was like yellow and that was the fourth one. It's going to say all that yellow stuff, it's got to be white, it's got to be blue, it's got to be black. It's something else because we can't do all of those because again, that's the way that they got to lay it down. If they don't want to put that much color into it because it is expensive for them, you're going to have to stick to 3 colors. And that is just the vector problem. Again, you can go through here and put as much color as you want. Like this one, for example, has got 6 colors in it. This is going to be a PNG because if it were a vector, they would have told me nix 2 of those colors. That might, again, be... it might be a problem with the actual platform. Again, I can't speak to other ones, but that is just the way that it is here, and I understand why. So if you want more than 3 colors at least, you're going to have to go the PNG route. And you can see a lot of mine are going to be like that because I like my colors. Um, and sometimes they get rejected, and that's just the way that's got to be. Another thing that you want to make sure of while you're doing your designs here, you're going to want to see them on some shirts, see what they look like, see if they're standing out or not. This one, for example, as I was going through and actually adding them to different designs and things, I noticed since it was a black and white, it was really hard to see on some stuff, especially stuff like dark shirts. And you want to make sure that your designs are applicable to every color, to every kind of product, or else it's going to be unusable. You get a really dark image like this one without this white outline, you can't use it on a dark shirt. It's just not going to turn out good. So I just added this real simple white line around it, and bada bing, bada boom. You can actually see it on the white. I actually have 2 versions of this where the Lady Rebellion at the bottom, one is in white and one is in black, and that way you can choose which kind of shirt you're going to have with it, because if this were a white shirt, for example, you ain't going to see that. You ain't going to see that. And it's very important that you do. So when you get your design done, whether you make it yourself or get it done by somebody else, just paste it onto something. Like, go Google t-shirt, black t-shirt, and then just go and like paint on net or something. Just slap it on there and see how it looks, or go into your Spreadshirt and see how it looks here. Sometimes it's some trial and error to see what actually looks good, and that's not a bad thing, you know. I mean, like for instance, it might look really good on this red shirt without the outline. No big deal. But on other things, you just want to make sure it's applicable to everything, because you don't want to make 5 gajillion of the same design. I mean, you can probably see. I don't know if I have. I guess I don't have any more because I probably deleted them. But I had multiple different versions of these, where I was trying to match them all to like the different kinds of shirts and stuff, and it was like a little crazy. So I narrowed them down to two, and I said, here you go. Like this one's gonna look great on some white T-shirts. It's got the black text and whatever. It's got the color. I think it looks great on a white T-shirt. You just kind of play around with it and see what it works with. Um, do you think it works in vector mode with any drawing app? It should. Again, it's going to come down to what you're exporting as. If you're exporting as a vector file, and they will take SVG and all sorts of other things. Here, I'll actually click on this and it'll say. So it'll take a JPEG, PNG, GIF, SVG, AI, and a CDR, which I don't actually know what that is. I've never heard of a CDR. So that's interesting, but I'm assuming that's some sort of vector file. But the two that I know of are SVG and AI. For some reason, SVG did not work for me, and that could be the way that I was exporting it, but AI does, so I just go ahead and use those. I use AI anyway. But for your typical run-of-the-mill whatever program, it'll probably spit out a PNG. Just use that. I do not recommend doing a JPEG or a GIF. The GIF will get transparency, but it'll be compressed to crap. And the JPEG is gonna not have transparency, so it's gonna have like white around it, for example. If you have any kind of transparency in the back, not recommended. It's definitely not. Blech, it's bad. But I won't tell you which ones to use, because again, it's going to be dependent on what the design is, how you want it to look, and how customizable you want it to be. Rabazar looks like one of the charity logos. It kind of does. It really does. PNG is the best, though. Chum, it's going great. I'm glad you're here. Thank you. And Dabine, thank you so much for hitting that merch thing there, because getting the link, you guys can kind of actually see like what I've made. And that we can kind of base off of that. Current pressure should be 4,000 pix by 4,000 pix and 300 DPI. Yes, with transparent background. Yes. My emote. Yes, and again, you can go by pixels or whatever. I usually just say inches because people can actually visualize inch. If I were to do a comparison, like what is inches to pixels, it would probably be around that size, maybe a little bigger. I like to make them big. I like to make them bold. As you could probably see from my merch store, certain things I like to make small, but for the most part, I can't hold my alt button when I'm talking because then I'm downloading things. For the most part, I like them big and bold, and that's going to come down to personal preference. You don't have to make them that big, but if you're gonna make them big, get a big old image. For the most part, I think Spreadshirt will take decently big file sizes, especially if it's going to be a vector file. They're going to be bigger than your typical PNG because they're not compressed. But I say make them bigger and then shrink them down if you need to, because bigger is always better in design because you can always shrink. But if you're trying to shrink outward, it's going to look like crap. Go big or go home.
So if anyone's wondering from like the technical side of like PNGs of vector files, so if like all of the artists have basically exported their stuff as PNG, is there a way then converting it into a vector, or do I have to go back to the artist?
You would then have to go back to the artist. If you tried to do PNG back into an AI, there are some ways to do it, but it's not going to be near as clean. It's going to be a hard process because it's basically taking what is like been pixelized and trying to turn it into lines again, and that is hard to do. it's gonna essentially guess where those lines would be, and you don't want to guess. You want it to know exactly. So you're gonna want the AI file. And honestly, I don't think it's wrong to ask the artist to be like, hey, just give me this AI file or an SVG or something that is a vector. I understand that some people don't want to give you like the editable file for whatever reason. They think of it as their property or whatever. If they made it for you, you deserve to have that editable file because you never know. At some point, what if you want to change your name or something and your name is on the image? You want to be able to just change that without having to go to the artist. That's just kind of like no big deal. And they should be accommodating enough to be able to give you your AI file because of situations like this where you may want to make it really big and put it on a t-shirt and whatever. I would go back to your artist for that because you do not want to try to do that yourself. That's going to be a nightmare. And as Joker is pointing out too in the chat, some do charge more for vector files because again, it's really much more customizable and much cleaner to use them, especially in situations like this. You're not going to be able to use them for something like Twitch. Like if they gave you an AI file of your profile picture, for example, you're not going to be able to implement that into Twitch anyway. You're going to use your PNG. But if you're using it for something like this that may be changing at some point, or you need to be able to upload that vector file, it's just better to have it. Even if you have to pay a little bit more, I'd say it's worth it. Especially if you, let's say it doesn't turn out exactly how you want. Like maybe you just want to change one color, it's just not working for you. You want to change your palette. You could easily go in yourself or have another artist just pop open that AI file and you have it forever and just change it and do whatever you need to it. I am always a fan of having the original file just in case I have to change something. And that's for everybody. I've made stuff for other people and I hold on to those files forever because I know at some point they may come back to me and say, I need this changed. I just pop in there and change it. No big deal. I'd say spring for the AI file.
So just to get a clearer understanding, the AI files, if you upload a apple, for example, that's white, people then can select different colors of that apple to wear, on their mug, their t-shirt.
I think if you, let's say on Spreadshirt, for example, the way that I've designed my shirts, I can pick what the colors will be. So, for instance, this the colors that I'm showing on my screen right now for this like coffin, for example, those red colors I chose because I knew that those products were going to be on black. So for those specifically, I actually chose to make them red, but then I made them black everywhere else. The user is not able to change those colors unless you implement what Spreadshirt has, which is basically like your own custom product creator, where the user can go in, select their product, select their design, change their colors, bada bing, bada boom, buy it, no big deal. I've had that disabled just because I personally want to be able to like design them the way I want them, and that way no one can like mess it up and somehow claim that it was my fault. But other people may like them because then that means that the user can get whatever they want. They can make what they want. And they don't have to ask you for it. And they can change their colors and stuff like that. Totally not against that idea, but that's the way that you'd be able to do it on Spreadshirt specifically. You'd have to give them the ability to make their own custom T-shirt. But yes, if you were using an AI file of like an apple, for instance, and you gave them that possibility, they could go in and change that color to whatever color palettes this Spreadshirt has available. Which, as you saw earlier, they have a decent amount of colors that you can pick from.
Yeah,
But
I see. So,
yeah,
so going on to that example, they could click on the mug, for example, and just change the color of the coffin to, say, blue if they
yeah.
wanted to, and it won't change anything else, just that specific color.
Yes, yeah, exactly. Because at least with these ones, like I have two colors in here. I got the white and the whatever it used to be, which was black, and you can change both of those if you wanted to. I messed around with that a lot, and I can kind of show you guys too, messing around with that a little bit. Actually, we'll just go into the one I already have, but it'll essentially look like this, where you click on it, you got your design colors over here, and you can pick from any of these and do whatever you feel like doing. And it'll essentially be just like that if you enable the customizer for the user.
Customizer for the user instead of backend.
Yeah. Because I set those myself as like the red or whatever. But if you want to give people full license to change it to something crazy like yellow to black or whatever, yeah, totally. But this is, again, like only usable with something like a vector image, and this is the way that Spreadshirt likes to do it. Other shops may not have this functionality, but that's also, again, why I like Spreadshirt so much. And I promise I'm not getting any money to rep them whatsoever. I wish I were, because I use them all the freaking time. But they are cool like this. The other thing I want to point out too is, I kind of touched on it earlier, but if you use a PNG or whatever kind of non-vector file, you can keep whatever colors you want. If you want this like very specific lime green, for example, you can use that color. But here, you are subject to Spreadshirt's colors. So they may have a lime green, what they call light green, but maybe that's not as limey as you want, you're kind of dependent on whatever colors of ink that they have, and they will kind of like with the example I gave earlier with the blame moat thing, where it gave me the closest blue that it had to that color that I had, but not quite the same, is a little bit darker. You are subject to their colors. And I typically like to keep my stuff like black and white, so it's not a huge deal for me, but that might be a huge deal for you if you just have like your brand colors all set up and you want it exactly that way. You're not necessarily going to be able to pick up those same exact colors through Spreadshirt's colors. You're going to want to do a PNG for that so you can get exactly the color you want. But that's, again, super, super nitty gritty, like you just really want that color for some reason. That may not be for everything. Because personally, I think the pros for the vector, for me, typically outweigh the cons. It just depends on how many colors you have in your design. I like to keep it simple, where I typically have them as like white or black or somewhere like that, two colors, that sort of thing, so I don't run into that problem. But as you can see, there are plenty of designs that I have that are actually custom colors that I wanted. The monstrosity symbol, for instance, has a bunch of different reds in there, and if I made it super simple, I might be able to put it in here as a vector file, but then those reds may not be the exact same. I just now realized I had a rejected a bunch of rejected stuff over here. Oh boy. And that's another thing you just gotta kind of deal with. You have to be careful not to get anything that is what would be considered copyright. That's probably a whole nother podcast in itself. But legality wise, you got to make sure that whatever it is that you're designing, it does not include something that might be a symbol from somewhere else. It does not. It is not something that is referencing like another piece of work that was not yours. Like, let's say you wanted to make something that said like something something Star Wars something. You know, it's like you can't necessarily do that kind of thing. You can't use their logo. It's probably best to just not even mention the piece of work, because sometimes they'll get you on that too. Try to have some kind of design that is uniquely your own, and that way they cannot claim any kind of bullshit on it. If possible, draw it yourself. Draw or have your artist draw it themselves. Don't use something off the internet that you just kind of vectorized or something. Not cool unless you're using a Creative Commons thing, and I can kind of go over that too. Creative Commons is basically a place where you can search for all different sorts of things. This is an image search, and essentially it's going to go through Google or wherever else and find the image that you're looking for. You want to use it for commercial purposes. You want to be able to modify or adapt it. I would say for both of those, click yes. I did this for my the shirt that I'm wearing right now. Actually, it's got like Japanese blossoms on it, for example. I'm not gonna go out and take my own picture of Japanese blossoms, so I wanted to just find one. So then I searched, and then there you go. A bunch of people have basically said this image is fine for anybody to take, to download, to use, to have people pay for, blah blah blah. And this is the best way you can keep it legal, you can keep it safe, you can't get any kind of copyright claims on it and all that jazz. So definitely keep an eye out for that. Don't let your artist be telling you that you can use all these different things and stuff. You gotta make sure that it is something that is open to the public. That also includes fonts, and I'll show you guys like one of my favorite font sites. This one here allows me to actually search by commercial, free for commercial use fonts. So I make sure always that is turned on, and that way I can look for whatever fonts I want. They got all these different categories that you can look through. You can type what it is that you are wanting to say in the font, and then you can kind of see how it looks right here. And once you find the one that you want, you can just download it. You unzip it, you apply it to your computer, and do whatever else you want with it. You can give it to your artist if you really want them to use that font. But again, make sure whatever it is that you're using is free for commercial use. The ones that come on your computer, for example, just off the bat, most likely are going to be some kind of copyright, because usually Microsoft or Apple, whoever it is, whatever you're using, they got a license to use it. So don't just use some whatever font from your computer. You're going to want to find something that's specifically for commercial use. Those are typically not. So yeah, so then let's see. Oh, thank you so much, Xbox. Reading through the chat here. I want mine in Vector and will challenge Spreadshirt for it. Can't use a Star Wars logo to create drawings of Star Wars characters. Yes, because it always comes down to like intellectual property. If it's something like an artist's interpretation of that thing, like I could probably draw a Batman face, but I have to physically draw with my hands or vector eyes, like draw with actual lines and stuff myself. I cannot Google an image and just put it through a filter and be like, bada bing, bada boom, it's mine. It's not mine. If I took it from someone else, it's not mine. If I didn't take it from a Creative Commons thing, it's not mine. So don't do that either. If you're gonna do that, if you're gonna do something like an actual like thing that exists, like a Batman or Star Wars or something like that, make sure that you're actually having your artist or yourself, like you draw it yourself. And it's gonna take a lot of work and it's gonna be annoying, but trust me, if you want to keep that thing forever and you don't want to get into a bunch of legal trouble later on down the road, just spring for the legit way. Plus, that's another thing is like with all of these designs, you got to future proof them a little bit. You got to make sure that it is something that you can actually utilize later on down the line. You could probably get away, and don't tell anyone this, but you could probably get away with using a logo or something from the internet or something up until people start to notice. So it's just better to start off as something that is uniquely your own as opposed to using something that is totally not and just hoping for the best. It's not worth it, I'm telling you. Okay, so unless anyone has any other questions about the actual designs, I can get into the actual like Spreadshirt site and how that works. You can kind of see this is like my personal store. I can also open up the Monstrosities one. You can see they're a little different in their design, which one of them I took a lot more time than others to actually make. But I can kind of get through how that's all laid out. So here you can see I have 2 spread shops under my account here. Here you can see general shop settings. Shop name, pretty simple. You can pick your URL so that way it's not something crazy pants. It's just shop.spreadshirt.com/layrebellion, whatever. The biggest thing here is going to be like appearance and the way that your actual products are laid out. For instance, on my product list page, I basically said like enable every single product here, show them all, list them as products and not just designs. If I had picked designs, then it would just be showing like this coffin, for instance, this Legend of Rebel, logo, yada yada. But it's either way. I mean, you don't have to do one way or the other. This is just the way that I do it, so that way I've laid out every single product that you can possibly get. You can arrange them by product variety, design variety, or just the whole variety, and that will kind of change how they're laid out. You can kind of see it just boop, boop, boop. Like, now it's just showing every t-shirt that has a logo on it, all the different logos I have for it. It's just dependent on whatever you feel like. That is totally a coincidence, Joker. Because I had that logo before I even started using Spreadshirt, and then I was like, dope. So hopefully that's not why they striked it, because that's crazy pants. I had this first. Shit. I'll have to give him some.
I have a question.
I'll have to give him some hell. Yes. And welcome, Steve. I didn't see either.
Nah, you're fine. So if you're gonna put a picture on a shirt or a hat or whatever, are there specific sizes you have to use, like for specific like measurements and stuff?
Basically for my stuff, I typically say go big as possible. I go by like a 10 by 10 inch square for all of my designs, and then from there, you're only allowed to use like the one design for every product. If you wanted to, you could keep uploading new design for like smaller things, but honestly, if you have a big one, you can resize it down, but you can never do the opposite. You can't make a small logo go big. It's just going to look crazy, and Spreadshirt themselves will say that the pixels per inch is not enough. It's not big enough to be able to spread it that far. So I always say make it really big, around 10 inches or so. Each side is typically pretty good. Eliminate any extra white space you might have. Like, for instance, my heart logo for a while had like a big old like artboard that had like empty space. You can get rid of some of that, just as long as one of the sides is 10 inches. And then that way, like this Rebel Squad one, for instance, that was huge and you could fit on a t-shirt or whatever else, but then you just shrink it down and it auto shrinks for you onto like the hat, and it comes out just fine. It may look like it's gonna, like, you know, make it super tiny or something and make it all distorted. It doesn't, especially if you use something like a vector. Vector's always gonna be a lot easier to shrink up and down, but Spreadshirt generally does a good job of being able to resize that stuff, and as long as you have the size and the pixels per inch, you should be okay, because then that'll basically take away pixels when you size them up or size them down or whatever. As long as you have a lot of them, then it doesn't really matter. It can kind of interpolate what's going to come next, so no big deal. So generally I would say the biggest that you possibly can, but not too huge, because Spreadshirt again will tell you if they are too big. For instance, they're really iffy on these zip hoodies. They don't allow me to put them on the front most of the time. If they're too big, I'd have to make a smaller version for it, and it's really annoying. But like on everything else, like the back or on a t-shirt or something, 10 by 10 inches is pretty good. And that's, again, just me randomly measuring myself to see like how big on a t-shirt I can get, because I love to make my logos big. Keynor says, how is Legend of Rebel not conflicting with copyright? That one specifically, again, I went through and found a font that is not any sort of like copyright issue font. It's something that an artist themselves made the font, and they have allowed it for personal use. And so while it may look very similar to the way that Nintendo makes theirs, for example, if you actually compared every single, you know, little letter to the Zelda font from Nintendo, there will be small differences because of that problem. You obviously cannot make something exact. Plus the fact that, you know, it's Zelda, so there's only, 5 letters there that they've made, whereas this has got a Rebel, and there's gonna be like a B. There's no B in Zelda. So they just had to basically guess as to how that would look in that font. So that's gonna be safe. And then the font on the top is, again, just a random font that I found that I thought just matched it really close to what it actually looks like. It's all about matching, pretty much. But you just have to be careful wherever you're sourcing your font from, that it says on there that you're able to use it. But it's just an artist basically making their own rendition of what that font would look like. And some of them actually have you like pay them money for these fonts, which I would also, you know, if you really want that font, I would recommend doing, because fonts can make or break some of these. Like, for instance, you know, something like this, making it look like an AC/DC sort of thing. Without this font, this would not look like an AC/DC sort of thing. This would look like hot garbage. But this was something that somebody made specifically to look like AC/DC, but just slightly changed, and that way you can still get the effect without having to deal with copyright issues. And some of this, I actually made my own lightning bolt, for example, so that way, you know, that is completely mine. No one can strike me on the lightning bolt sort of thing. So yeah, that's kind of how I get around that. It all comes down to where to come from, what kind of licenses they're allowed to give you for it. But I always lean back on the fact that you should just draw your own stuff. If you got text, you can't get away with it, of course, unless you want to draw your own freaking fonts, which is crazy. But for the most part, I like to just make my own. All these fonts here that you can see are stuff that I have sourced from different people who have allowed me to use them. Appearance, which is always fun to mess with. If I go back to here, I can change the logo, which is basically as you can see on this tab here, that's called a favicon. You can change that favicon. It's kind of just a nifty little way to show people, like, on the tabs, like, which one's yours. That one's mine. You got the Monstrosities one over here. It's got a little Cthulhu symbol. That's basically your logo. Colors and fonts. I specifically was like, hey, I want this purple. So I just set that, and now all of my links and stuff are basically this purple. They do have preset themes if you are not artistical like me. If you were just like, I don't know what the frick to do. They got themes and they're very pretty that you can choose from, and basically you can have a picture there if you want. You could be really simple like the Monstrosities page that I made, where it's literally just like colors and text. It doesn't have to be crazy, I'm telling you. It's as long as it's something legit that people can buy a shirt on and it doesn't look sketchy as hell, it'll be fine. I just happen to go the extra route, add my like backgrounds and stuff like that. But yeah, as Joker said, they do have recommendations on Spreadshirt itself, of course. If you ever need help, they've got plenty of contact info and different help sources and stuff too. They will walk you through what they're looking for when it comes to, you know, design and stuff like that. They will tell you when stuff gets, rejected or whatever. Sometimes it's just as simple as like, we just absolutely cannot see this image that you're trying to put in here, so we can't print it. No big deal. Don't take it personally or anything. Everybody's got to deal with this kind of stuff because this is all like pretty much an automatic process. Occasionally they will have real live people actually looking into your design, and you can talk to a real live designer if you need to. But yeah.
So, two questions for anyone that's wondering, etc. There are obviously a number of merch websites out there. Streamlabs obviously have the integrated one that you can use. Since we're specifically talking about Spreadshirt, let's advertise that really quickly for a second. Is this free to use, and does it integrate with Twitch, with like the alert boxes, etc.?
It is free to use. The biggest drawback is basically that they're gonna take a portion of your sale, but as you sell more, you get more of a cut. Actually, so it's kind of like a nice back and forth because I understand they got the products and they're doing the printing and everything, so they should take some sort of cut for that. The way to get around that is basically to get a freaking printing machine yourself and start making your own t-shirts in your basement or whatever. But if you can't do that, this is the way to go. You still get a decent chunk out of it. You can monetize your designs, or you can monetize like the whole thing, and that way you can get a cut, and it'll gradually increase as you sell more, because they're basically saying, oh, if you're selling a lot, then you deserve to get like a decent cut of it, but they will take some of it. But yeah, so as for that, like, it is free to use. Just don't expect to make, like, if this shirt is $16, don't expect to make $16 off of it. You're not gonna. You're gonna make a fraction of that, and they will tell you specifically what you make per shirt. I'm not even sure where I can go to look at that, but affiliate commission, I guess, would be the way to do it. Design price, affiliate commission, volume commission, that kind of thing. 20% of the revenue, so there you go, pretty much. And if you sell at least 26 products within 1 month, you increase your earnings. So there you go. What was your second question?
Whether it then integrates with Twitch API. So when you buy something off Streamlabs merch page, for example, the alert box comes up. Just wondered whether shirts do that. You.
Right. Okay, so I would say for that, this one is probably not the best to use for an actual integration. I've seen other ones. I'm trying to think. It was something humanity or something like that. There are other ones that actually have like extensions. For example, Streamlabs, since they have the whole chatbot and everything else, they're able to get away with that sort of like alert thing. When you sell, it's all integrated. But Spreadshirt is for non-streamers, whereas Streamlabs is obviously for streamers, so they don't have that sort of integration necessarily. It's just more of a on the side sort of thing, its own encapsulated process. Streamlabs, that would be a plus, I guess, in their category, while they may not have as much control over, what you make and what you can make and stuff like that. You can integrate it a little bit better. And like I said, there are plenty out there that are for streamers too, that I have seen. I can't remember off the top of my head what they were called now, but they have like extensions and things like that that you can actually show the shirts. For me personally, I just have my link on my page, basically. You can see down here, once it loads up, doo-doo, there we go, merch. And I just put a couple pictures on there, and that was enough for me. If you really want to get into like having like an alert and stuff like that, while it's super like, you know, cool to like see like when someone live time buys something, totally look into the Streamlabs option, because I've heard from some people that it's pretty decent. It's not near as full fledged, but since it's, you know, obviously not all that they do, but it's a really cool resource for people who don't know what they want to do with their merch but just want to integrate it completely. Definitely get into some of this, because
Yeah, for a basic streamer,
yeah,
the only thing that Streamlabs lets you down on, I would say, over profit of the product, etc. Like literally, the like $15 cup, you know, you sell for $16, so you only make $1. But
right.
it probably doesn't cost them $15 to juice.
Right, exactly. And you're gonna find that a lot of different places. Spreadshirt's got a pretty decent cut, as you saw, but at the same time, with the design cost, I can actually set per design what I want from it. So let's say, for example, I want to sell my shirt, and let's go to my merch store here. Let's say the shirt is maybe like, I don't know, $18 just for the base shirt, then you add stuff on it. Which, by the way, the more pictures, for example, or the more text you add to your shirt, the cost is going to keep jacking up, because they gotta print all those different things on your shirt. If you just got one, it's going to be a lot cheaper than if you have like five. So again, if you want like 5 items on your shirt, put them all in one image and save yourself the money. Um, but yeah, so they're gonna take that. They're gonna obviously take the cut of what the shirt costs and the labor costs. Then they're gonna give you the 20% that you're owed, or whatever it is that you've earned. Um, like if I did sell 26 shirts this month, then I'm gonna get an even higher cut, which is great. Um, and then on top of that, each of my designs I have put $1 on, and that is essentially just for like saying, hey, I think this design, it was made by me, I think it's worth like at least $1 on top of what the actual shirt costs. That dollar is going straight to me. That's not something that Spreadshirt is going to dice apart and give me in pieces. That is something that I'm specifically saying I want from my design, which I think is also super cool, because then you can set and say, like, you know, it's going to jack up the price of your t-shirt, but if you honestly think your design is worth like $5, let's say, you want to get $5 off of it, you can add $5 to your design. And if I add $5 of this, it's going to be a $26 shirt, but I'll get that $5 plus I'll get the 20% that I get anyway for being an affiliate. So that's also super cool from Spreadshirt. And again, I don't have a lot of expertise with Streamlabs. They might have a similar option, but I think that's super cool as well. It's kind of a way to control your costs. Plus the fact that I don't have to use this $18 shirt. I mean, they've got cheaper products available. They've got like maybe 10 different kinds of shirts that you could use. Not all of them are going to be priced the same, so that's really nice. Like if you want to go for a cheaper option, let's see what I got here. I think one of my later ones was a little bit cheaper. Or maybe not. Maybe I just made them all. Because I do like that premium shirt. You're going to get better quality if you put in the money, basically, is what I decided from it. But my past shirts were like more like $16, and then on top of that I added whatever else. The dollar that I wanted from it and whatever else. So, yeah, like this one here. That's a $16 shirt right there. It was probably 14 or 15 for the base shirt, and then like for the design, like add another dollar. So yeah, so you can kind of pick and choose. I tend to lean on the side of I don't want to charge people out the ass for my stuff. Some people do, and I totally understand, like, you know, wanting to make some money from it. You totally should, especially if that is your design. You deserve to make some money off of it. Like the bigger people like PewDiePie, for example, might be able to get away with charging more for their designs. Charge what you think is it's worth. I think these are worth $20. That's a typical shirt price that you would find at like a Hot Topic or something. But it's all up to you. There's nothing saying you can't charge more for these. If people are willing to pay it, then so be it. For me, it's not even necessarily about the money. It's more just people asked for it, so I said, sure, take it. I'll make you a whole bunch of stuff. And then eventually I was just like, you know what? I've got all these designs and stuff in my head. I'm just going to make them. And if people want them, people want them. Usually I'm my best customer and I buy my own stuff constantly. But like I said, it's a great way to get people more invested in your channel, to rep your channel everywhere that they go, especially if you're going to make something cool. If this was just simply like my name on a t-shirt, I don't think it would be near as like desirable as something that was actually like created custom and like made really cool, something people would want to wear anyway. So always kind of be thinking, I mean, look around you and see what's on people's t-shirts and stuff. Kind of see what people are wearing. Like for instance, I've been buying a lot of stuff with Japanese lettering and stuff like that, Japanese inspired designs and stuff. So I was like, you know what? Like I'm gonna spring for that. I'm gonna spring for something cool like that. Maybe someone else will dig it, maybe not, but I dig it, you know? Stuff that you want to wear is what other people are most likely gonna want to wear. But yeah, just as Joker said, yeah. As you pick higher quality products, as you add more cost to your design, that's gonna hike your t-shirt cost up, or whatever it is, your product cost up. So keep that in mind, and they will tell you what each one is gonna cost, and it's just gonna be up to you to decide, like, is that actually worthwhile? Like, some things here I would say are a little pricey, but if that's what someone's looking for, I give them the option. Most people are probably gonna spring for a t-shirt. I think t-shirts are always the best place to start, because everyone wears t-shirts all the time. You can put them under sweatshirts and all of that. You can wear it when it's hot, you wear it when it's cold. But variety is also the spice of life. Give people some options, you know? They really were looking for a new sweatshirt and they really like that design, bada bing. Be open to people requesting items from you. They're like, oh, one person said, I want that in the v-neck. I said, okay, no problemo. I just went in there and bing bam boom, made the v-neck. Not a big deal. I know people really like mugs as well. Some people get into the hats. Totally cool. Just give them some options. People might scroll through this and be like, what the hell? I don't want any of this bullshit. Totally fine. It's there for if you want it, you know? And the good thing about Spreadshirt too is that you can actually choose here. Like if I'm just looking for men's t-shirts, boom, super easy to find them all. Not a big deal. A lot of different options. Spreadshirt, for the most part, I think has been the easiest and most customizable store that I have found. They constantly have coupons, which is also, if you're gonna make a merch store, make sure that you actually have, like, you know, advertising for it, and the best way to do that is to advertise your coupons. Rampaging News said, thank you so much for that raid. We're over here doing a podcast, actually, so it's gonna be a lot of me just gabbing. So hopefully you enjoy. We're going over some, like, merch tips and tricks that I've learned over the years, but yeah, so as you can see on this one, for example, Spreadshirt is constantly giving some kind of coupon, whether that just be for like their main creator thing or for stores. Partner store coupons are what you're going to want to look for. They're not always the same. I'll go to spreadshirt.com, for instance, and it will say 15% off 2+ items. You click on this, it'll actually say you cannot use this in a partner shop, and that is what your shop's going to be. You got to make sure you're giving them the right coupon. The only way to know is to actually go to your store and be like, oh, look at that. There's a coupon up here for 15% off. Bada bing, bada boom. And the ones in Spreadshirt, at least, used to give a code, not so much anymore. Now you just hit redeem and it'll just automatically apply it to your cart. I did a raid pass through here and all, I think it died. Oh, God. Oh, no. Well, I mean, thank you for trying, though. I appreciate it. Twitch has been real strange with the raids lately, I've noticed. But thank you. Honestly, it means a lot to me. Like I said, hey, Duckplay, how's it going? We're doing a podcast right now, so it's not a huge deal. But I really appreciate all the extra eyeballs, of course. I hope you had a good stream. But yeah, advertise the crap out of your crap. Every time I make a new t-shirt design, I make sure to put it out there and just be like, if y'all want it, here you go. Boop, boop. Give a couple examples. I guess I could pull up one of my tweets if anyone's curious. I don't know. I don't know what anyone's curious about anymore, but let's see if I can actually find something amongst all this bullshit. There it is. Alright. So I just have a little tagline. I'm like, hey, like, you know, I made some stuff for Halloween. I was inspired. Whatever. 2 days to get 15% off. You give me the link, put some hashtags on there, bada bing. I got a bunch of different, like, stuff, because some people might be looking for mugs or whatever. Just make sure people can see it. I like to show them on the t-shirts themselves, and there's also a way to turn it on where you can get the models in the t-shirts, which might be cool for some people. Like, if you really want to see a guy with the actual design on the t-shirt, I think that's kind of neat. I don't have it on right now, but it's kind of cool, you know? Just to see like what it would look like, but definitely give them an example. Show them your favorites and be like, this is cool, you know? Like, take a look at it. Let me give you a little bit of a tasty of it. You know what I'm saying? But definitely let them know about these coupons because they come around all the time. They'll give you a notification usually. Plus, if you actually search like Spreadshirt, for example, or Spreadshop, whatever the heck they're calling their things, they'll actually tell you about the coupons. I think it's Spreadshop, technically. And sometimes they'll even share you. Like, if you're using their tag a lot, I've actually been shared on Instagram and Twitter now, which is really cool. I've been, like, highlighted in their stories and stuff. I think they're really... See, like, here you can see kind of like a... Get some insight into their coupons and stuff coming out. But yeah, seriously, like, super cool company. I can't recommend them enough. I'm not saying guaranteed you're gonna get featured or whatever. I don't even know if that does anything for me. But it's just cool that they care enough to be like, hey, your shit's cool. So there you go. You know what I'm saying? What else can I say about all this stuff? And of course, I mean, you can make this your own site for the most part, like, depending on what kind of design you want. Like, this looks like a merch store, but there's so many other things you can do with it. And you also got your you know, buttons for social medias. You can do some SEO and adding some, like, keywords to your site so people can find it when they're searching on, like, Google, for example, if you're really wanting to get into that. This is my own personal store for my my Twitch, my streaming stuff. But some people actually make these because they're actual, like, they want to sell t-shirts with their designs on them because they're artists or whatever. You can use it for all sorts of different things. Streamlabs themselves will have a website that you can pay for, and on that website you can integrate your merch into it, and I think that's kind of cool too. If you're wanting to just do the whole kit and caboodle, have a website like ladyrebellium.com, and then when you pay for that, you can integrate your merch and stuff. So it's all in one place. You can have your stream embedded there. You can have your links. You can have your merch, everything else. But this is really for a standalone thing, basically. It's not going to be super integrated into Twitch and everything else. It's just going to be its own little store thing. But that works for me. You're linked to it, and you're good to go, you know? So barring any other questions, I think that's pretty much all I can go through here. Again, don't really want to rep anything or advertise anything about myself. Really, I'm just trying to advertise Spreadshirt and what it can do for you and what merch in general can do for you. Because I tell you what, sometimes people just buy things to help the streamer out, to support them. They're just saying like, hey, I like what you do. I like your shirt. I think it's cool. Stuff like this that I have done for our entire community is just basically as like a funny inside joke sort of thing, and I think it's fun, and I figured if people wanted to buy it and people want to buy it, whatever, people could be repping our Discord server, things like that. It's just whatever you want it to be is what it can be, and the sky's the limit when it comes to what you can create and what you can put out there. So definitely recommend everybody gets a merch store of some sort, even if it just has one shirt in it. It might mean something to somebody. And it also gives a good giveaway incentive as well. I've used that before where I've said, like, oh, I reached 600 followers. Here's a giveaway. Whoever wins gets a free t-shirt. People generally get into that kind of thing. We've done that for Monstrosities before, and one of our members actually wears it like almost every time he streams, which is amazing because it's just a really easy way to rep stuff, streamers, communities, whatever. I also would recommend, like, to, if you really want to spread your brand even further, you could put like the URL, for instance. Just make sure that you don't use like the Twitch logo or any sort of logos that might be copyright, because Spreadshirt will actually find those and cancel your shit out. Be like, nope. But you could put like a URL or a QR code or something like that that is free to like actually advertise. QR code, something like that, is going to be a lot easier to, give to somebody to actually find your content, as opposed to like a URL that they have to like type in or whatever. So I'd recommend maybe not the URL per se, but just like a QR code situation. So that way people could just be like, boop boop. Yeah, your Twitter. Just don't use the Twitter logo again. You could do like @LadyRebellion on Twitter or something like that. But for the most part, I don't expect people to like see my shirt and go check me out necessarily, unless I go to something like TwitchCon, or another convention that I'm wanting people to actually, I want to like network with. I would put my name on. All of my other stuff is just a lot of like rando shit that I've just thought of and I like to wear on stream because it has something to do with my game or whatever. Like, I'm playing Zelda right now, I made a Zelda shirt. I'm playing Mario right now, I made a Mario shirt, whatever. But yeah, essentially it's just like, if I was going to TwitchCon, I'd probably get one that was more like my actual, brand or whatever. Lady Rebellion, Rebel Squad, whatever. It's got my name on it. And I'll put my Twitch handle on there or something, It is whatever you want it to be. It's almost like a business card. It's a billboard. Could you DM me the links for the free fonts page? I sure can. I can actually put them here if you guys are curious. Just make sure that you have these buttons, free for commercial use, on. I'll do the Creative Commons as well. Super, super helpful resources. Just stuff that I've randomly come across as I've been working with stuff. And this isn't even, Creative Commons isn't even all you can do. I think even Google will have like a Japanese I think even Google has some sort of tool or setting or something where you can set it to just Creative Commons stuff as well. If I could freaking remember how to do it. I don't remember how to do it, but there's ways. Maybe it's in here. I could have swore it was a tool. Oh, usage rights. Here we go. Labeled for reuse with modification. That's generally what you want. Not non-commercial, because obviously this is a commercial product that you're making. So you want to make sure that you can modify it and you can reuse it the way you see fit, and you can commercialize it and everything else. Let's see if I actually change that. You'll see you'll get some drastically different results from many different kinds of places. Pixabay, I think, what's that other one? I'm not gonna remember. It starts with an F. Flickr, there it is. There's plenty of sites that have like that kind of search functionality. I usually just go to Creative Commons because that's just like basically a Google search. It's guaranteed to be what you want it to be, but plenty of search engines have this option. So yeah, that's pretty much it from me. Thank you guys for tuning in to my spiel about merch, and thank you to everybody who asked questions and stuff too, because I'm happy to answer them, of course. Just knowing what I know, what little bit I know, I like to pass on, because I think every little bit counts. Even if you're just making a couple bucks from this, a couple bucks from Twitch or whatever, over time, that's destined to grow. And I think it's always good to dip your toes into these new things just to see what happens, So yeah, we'll go back to our podcast. Oh yes. But yeah, so I also just want to rep real quick. Let me get my Monstrosities. If you are not currently in a streaming community and you want to be, this is my community. I own it with a couple other people. Just full disclosure. Shameless plug. But it is an awesome community. We have plenty of members who are there to help you out on your streaming journey. We have a bot website now that helps people know like when you're live and stuff like that. It's super cool. I also Monstrosities for the win, and I also want to rep the charity link as well, which I guess doesn't want to work for me right now. Super cool. Come on, bot, do your job. There it is. We are raising money currently this month for Able Gamers. If you don't know what that is, it's basically a fund for differently abled people to be able to help them play games with different accessibility options, with different devices and things like that. So definitely check them out. They're super cool. Check out our link. That'll give you all of the milestones and incentives that we have right now for donating. That is my personal page, but we also have, as my bot just told you, we also have the main page, and that's like where everything is being combined. We're trying to raise $5,000 so far. I think we're at like 1,300, which is fantastic. So yeah, if you feel like you're just feeling super generous, just want to throw a couple bucks our way for that, that'd be super cool. Of course, we always appreciate anything that you can give, and of course Able Gamers will be appreciative as well. Super cool charity. I've talked with the head guy from that. He's a really cool dude, and they have a really cool mission for people who, you know, just everyone should be able to play is kind of just their tagline, and I believe in that full-heartedly. So all right, well, past that, if there's no other questions, I am going to go pass along this raid here and get the rest of my day started. Oh, I guess Monstro's bot is down. Oh, whoopsie doops. Gonna have to go figure that out. Technology! Oh god, is Twitch down too? Why can't I see my friends? Who's on right now? Gosh dang it. Why has everything gotta be so hard? Okay. Who's live? Who's freaking live right now? Kunanaki? Kunanaki? Why can I not see this? It's so weird. Twitch is broken. Twitch is so broken. Twitch is dying. Raids are complete. Seriously, I can't even see my freaking follower list. That's crazy. Okay, I think Kunanaki is on. Maybe. Oh, I guess I can actually. When I click on the raid thing, it actually tells me who's live, which is really weird that they don't tell me right away. Let's go to Solar Wolf. He's live. I wish I could have seen that. It's silly. It's silly. You only have Dav on? Really? Okay, let me make sure Solar Wolf is actually live before we yeet everyone on over there. God, is this my internet? Is this Twitch? Nothing's loading. This is a nightmare. Sorry, y'all. We're trying. There it goes. Okay, he is live. It's just wow. Wow, that's rough. I think he still is. It's just not loading very well. God. Yeah, Monster died too. We're gonna have to figure... It might be the memory issue again. Oh my god. We have to figure that out. We're currently in the process of switching over to like a true database, so... Hopefully that gets changed at some point here. But stay with us, guys. I appreciate your patience with the bot because, as I said, we're not website developers. We're all just learning. So, it's been an interesting process. Okay. So yeah, so we'll go to Solar Wolf and hopefully he's still alive by that time. Bot might be dead because Twitch. Maybe I don't know. I don't know if it would have. Maybe. I guess if it couldn't connect to anything, then maybe it would just go kaput. Monster's Bot is an awesome, nifty little addition. Oh, well, thank you for saying so. I have been using the crap out of it. And I think it's super cool, and we're only just looking into more and more features for it. So I'm super excited to see where we go with it. But it will get better. Once we switch over to a bona fide database, it'll get better. But yeah, for now, we'll go over to Solar Wolf, and I'll see you guys later. Bye!